clap your hands if you love the Lord. God is good and his mercy is everlasting. I want you to put your hands together for Pastor Miller. Thank God for him for the last month since taking care. And many of you don't know he was out to the hospital and visited me on several occasions, checking on me, as many of you did, and we thank God for it. Amen. That was 17 days, and we don't want to go back again. Amen. Amen. And so we're thankful for life, for health, and for strength. Amen. There's a word for us found in Mark's writing, Mark chapter 8. I'll get right to the point. Mark chapter 8. I have strict orders from my wife not to do too much. Amen. And not to stay too long. Amen. Amen. Even Sister West said amen on that, so I sit down quickly. Amen.
Amen.
Mark chapter 8. Beginning with verse 1. He says this: in those days, the multitude being very great and having nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples unto him and said unto them, I have compassion on the multitude, because they have now been with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away fasting to their own houses, they will faint by the way. For diverse of them came from afar, or many of them came from afar. Verse 4. And his disciples answered him, from whence came a man satisfy these men with bread here in the wilderness? And he asked them, how many loaves have ye? And they said, 7. And he commanded the people to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves and gave thanks and brake and gave to his disciples to set before them. And they did set them before the people. Verse 7. And they had a few small fishes, and he blessed and commanded to set them also before them. So they did eat and were filled. Somebody said, and were filled.
And were filled.
And took up of the broken meat that was left 7 baskets. And they that had eaten were about 4,000, and he sent them away. You may be seated. Just help me preach for a few moments this morning by just looking at somebody and say, he can do it again.
He can do it again.
If you're not next to anybody, just put your hand on yourself and say, he can do it again.
He can do it again.
He can do it again. If he did it before, he can do it again. I think that's good news for every person who is somehow pregnated upon pews and sitting in particular spots in their own personal life. No matter what you came in here facing, whether it is triumphs or tragedies or trophies that are in your life, whether you're in the quicksand of life or whether you're on the mountaintop of the expression of your own mindset of who you are and who you have become, whether you're in a low place or whether you're in a high place, I think you can agree if God did it before, watch this, he can do it again. Hallelujah. I don't have to just look into my life, but I can look into your life and see the fact that if he has blessed you, and if he has no respecter of person, then sooner than later, I can't go from one bad season to another bad season. That somewhere in between the seasons, there has to be a good season that comes into play. So then I can shout and say with a voice of acclamation that if he did it before, he can do it again. You see, in the text, it is talking about the feeding of 4,000. This, to many scholars, has been told or expressed as the forgotten miracle. It's forgotten because it gets somewhat trepidated out of the expression of the 5,000 people that Jesus fed.
Yes, sir.
We are often expressive of the 5,000 people that Jesus fed with the 2 fish and the 5 barley loaves. But we forget about the 4,000 that he also fed. The feeding of the 4,000 is only recorded in Matthew chapter 15 and verses 32 and 39. The miracle of all of the other feedings were sprinkled throughout the Gospels. It is called by theologians a doublet. A doublet is really, by theologians, a miracles that had striking similarities. Between these miracles of the feeding of the 4,000 and the feeding of the 5,000, that's recorded in Mark chapter 6, verse 34 through verse 44, the two differences between the two miracles are just as striking in their similarities as it is in their differences. Because this unbiased story of the two expressions, both in Matthew and both in Mark, because Mark's account of this feeding is given to Peter. Peter becomes Mark's source because Peter was first-hand witness who not only witnessed the feeding of the 5,000, but Peter also witnessed the feeding of the 4,000. And scholarly attempts have been made to explain away both of these events with their similarities and their differences.
Yeah.
And in the middle of all of their expressions, Jesus records the performance of this miracle. And this miracle that Jesus performed let people know and should let us know and have faith that grows in him to believe that in spite of a different crowd, in spite of a different time, in spite of a different place, Jesus can still show up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He did it before, and he can do it again. Mark chapter 1, verse 1 reads, the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, because Mark lets us know that Jesus was the Son of God.
Yeah.
But the first 7 chapters of Mark unfold in somewhat of a parallel thing, because Mark wants you to know that Jesus is just as much man as he is God. Mark wants to tell us and explain to us the divine Trinity that Jesus was a part of. That yes, he was God in human form. That he, when he talked about kingdom work. When he gave miracles, it was not about Jesus. It was about the kingdom, an expression and an extension of what God was doing. And so was it done in heaven. Jesus did it on earth. So it was an important lesson that before anything that could ever happen, Jesus wanted them to know that if he did it before, he could still do it again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That he wasn't somehow hindered and hampered by time or place or geography or location or even culture. He wanted them to know that because he was God in the flesh, that he could perform miracles no matter what state you were in.
Yes, sir.
I think that's good news for every person that came into this church, that not all of us are facing the same dilemma. Not all of us are facing the same circumstance, the same element, the same persecution or trials. But whatever it is you're facing, here's the good news, that He can still heal the sick. He can still unstop deaf ears. He can still give sight to the blind. He can still walk on water. He can still feed you if you're hungry. He can still be a doctor in the sick room. He can still be a lawyer in the courtroom. He can still, he says,
Yes.
if I did it before,
I can do it again.
I can do it again.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And the good news is that he can do it with or without your participation. All right, I learned this. It's not new. I learned it actually the other night. I was watching television and I heard someone say it, and I think it bears repeating. He gives the analogy of a man who is going into court. And when you get to court, if you've ever been to court, I won't ask you to raise your hand. That's your own business. But if you've ever been to court, you know one of your rights is that you have the right to object.
Yes, sir.
If something's going on that you don't agree with, you have the right to object.
Yes, sir.
But the judge has the right to overrule you.
Yes, sir.
And Jesus is saying the same thing to us today. You got the right to object, but I've got the right to overrule you. I don't know if there's anybody in this church that God has ever had to overrule you even when you objected to where you are. You objected to the times that you were living in. You objected to your problem, your situation, but he stamps overrule on top of your objection.
Yeah, that's right.
He says it's not because I'm capricious, it's not because I'm unfair, but he says it is all so I can get the glory out of your life.
Yeah.
So let me drop you 3 quick things that you can carry home with you, and then I'm going to take my seat. I told you before, he did it before, he can do it again. But when you notice the text, the compassion and the wisdom and the power of Jesus knows no boundaries.
Amen.
He did it before. He can do it again. The feeding of the 4,000 teaches us 3 things. 3 reasons that we can trust Jesus to do it again. Number 1 is that he cares. Somebody say he cares.
He cares.
Mark records the miracle that declares, that defends, that demonstrates the sovereign authority of Jesus. But the feeding of the 4,000 is not about the authority of Jesus. It is about the compassion of Jesus. In other miracles, Jesus declares, I can. But in this miracle, he declares, I care.
Yeah.
Some things he did because he can.
Yeah.
Like the man that was at the pool of Bethesda for 38 years, he heals him because he can. But there are other miracles, he healed people because he cares. Let me see if I can make that make sense. In verse 1, it says, in those days when again the great crowd gathered, that's Mark chapter 8, he says that this great crowd gathered, and it recorded some things about the crowd, that the crowd was drawn to Jesus.
Yeah.
It was drawn to Jesus, and watch this, the crowd follows Jesus in a desolate place.
Yes, Lord.
I thought about that. They followed Jesus, and Jesus took them to a desolate place. A desolate place is an empty place. It's a place void of habitation. It's a place nobody wants to go to. And Jesus following him, watch this, they end up in a desolate place. Wait a minute. I must have read my Bible wrong. They were following Jesus.
Yes, sir.
And in following him, they ended up in a desert place. A dry place. Because see, church people will mess you up.
Come on, Pastor.
They'll have you thinking that because something happened to you that wasn't necessarily good, you must have been doing something wrong. But the text says they were following Jesus, and they still ended up in a desolate place. All right. When they get to the desolate place, he says that they were there. They were Gentiles. The first feeding were the Jews. The second feeding of the 4,000 were the Gentiles. Okay, on one hand, he satisfied the people who would ultimately reject him. On the other hand, he satisfies the people that would ultimately come to him. Which means that he had no respect to person. That whether you were for me or against me, I was still going to feed you. All right, preacher, make that make sense. You see, everybody he woke up this morning didn't deserve it. Throw your hand up. Everybody that he woke up this morning and blessed didn't deserve the blessing. Throw your hand up. Everybody that he woke up this morning wasn't living absolutely right. Throw your hand up. Everybody that he blessed and gave strength and life to didn't deserve it. Throw your hand up. But you're still here. You still got your right mind. You still got health and strength. And that's enough to thank him for.
Thank you, Lord.
They were in, here it is, a desolate, dry place. It was dry. There was no life. But the good news is Jesus was still there. Even though they were in a broken situation, even though they were in a situation that was desolate, Jesus was there. I want you to notice the work of the disciples in verse 4, because the disciples had something different. I told you that Jesus cared about them, but secondly, Jesus has to intervene. The intervention of Jesus came twofold. One, the disciples said to him, Jesus, how you going to feed all these hungry people? And we're out here in a desert place. It seems to me that these are the same disciples that watched him heal the sick, raise the dead, unstop deaf ears, and just got through feeding 5,000 with 2 fish and 5 barley loaves. And yet by the time they get to verse 4, they have spiritual amnesia and somehow has forgotten the power that Jesus had. They saw him walk on the water. They saw him speak to the wind and the waves, but yet they still doubted. I don't want us to beat up on the disciples, because really we're not too far from them. Because sometimes we get into dilemmas and situations and perils in life that we forget the power that our God has. We come to church and we sing songs like the Lord will make a way somehow. And when we get into a bad situation, we forget the way that he can make. So these disciples said, how you going to do it? How are you going to make a way? I got to tell you something, in this season, this next season that God is ushering you into, you got to be careful who you're riding with.
That's right.
Let me see if I can make this Makes sense.
Talk about it.
Jeffrey Hemmer was an aircraft pilot in World War II, and Jeffrey Hemmer writes in his book that when he took off from the airport, his plane started malfunctioning. Jeffrey Hemmer had to find the closest spot that he could put his plane down and check to see what was going on. When he puts his plane down in a rice field, he gets out and begins to check his plane. And while he's checking his plane, he noticed that he left an oil cap that was not screwed in tightly. And so he screws the oil cap in tightly. But while he's examining the plane, Jeffrey Hemmer said that some way, somehow, a rat had climbed up in his plane, not to his beknowing. And he gets back in his plane, and Jeffrey Hemmer takes off and begins to fly. And while he's flying in his plane, he could hear a gnawing sound of something eating away inside his cockpit. And he says, wait a minute, there must be some rat that's got on board of my airplane. And he's now nervous because he knows if the rat keeps chewing, he's going to chew into some of his vital systems that may cause his plane to crash. But Jeffrey Hemmer reminded himself of something that he learned in flight school. And what he learned in flight school was that if in fact a rat or a rodent gets on the board of your plane, all you have to do is fly to a higher altitude. Because if you fly to a higher altitude, it will kill the rat because they can't stand certain altitudes. I stopped by to tell you, if you got some rats flying with you, you ought to fly to a higher altitude.
Talk about it, baby.
Can I preach it like I feel? So Jesus said, since I got a few rats hanging on me, I called my disciples, let me fly to a higher altitude so I can teach them a lesson that they would learn in a low place.
Yeah.
Teaches them something. Look at the text. All right. 4,000 people were getting ready to be fed. 7 loaves and a few fish. 7 loaves, 4,000 people. Can I teach you something? Write this down. The number 4 in the Bible means new creation.
Yes, Lord.
The number 7 in the Bible means completion.
Yeah.
All right. He's going to get ready to form a new creation.
Yes.
And he's going to complete it.
Amen. Amen.
Let me show you in the text. The 4,000, I told you new creation.
Yeah.
The 7 loaves, completion. All right. What God did for them, he wants to do the same thing for us right now.
Yeah.
Make you a new creation and complete the work that he started in you that the devil tried to tear down.
Yeah.
Tell somebody, say, I receive that right now.
I
receive being a new creation.
Yeah.
I receive that God is going to complete in me what he's already started. He intervenes and he does not rebuke his disciples. Sometimes Jesus, in our silliness, decides to say nothing. He didn't even respond to their question. He just told them to go and do. He says, how many loaves do you have? That's around verse 5, the B part. He said, how many loaves do you have? They said, we got 7. He commanded the people, he said, go tell them to sit down. The posture of sitting down was not just to eat. There are two reasons that text tells people in their culture in antiquity that you sat down. One, when you sat down to eat. But two, you sat down to be instructed. Amen. This sit down in the Greek was not necessarily to eat. Yeah. It was to be instructed. Right. So Jesus says, I'm going to instruct you while you eat. Yeah. I'm going to teach you something and put something in you spiritually while I'm putting something in you physically. Yes, sir. And so he commands them to just eat. And he begins to break the bread and he begins to give them something to eat. And despite the resentment of the disciples, yes, sir. Despite their questioning, despite their location, despite the tension in the text, and people are looking around and in this desolate place, and yet he's feeding them, yes, in a place that they shouldn't be fed. Amen. Man, I wish I could stay there. He's blessing them, yes, in a place where you shouldn't be blessed. Mm-hmm. He's giving them life in a place of death. I don't know if I got any witnesses in here, but there are some people that can tell you that God has blessed me in situations that would have took other people out, but I'm still here. I still got my right mind. I'm still blessed. I'm still strong, and God did it. I didn't do it. I was in a desolate place. But even when you're broken, he can still bless you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Even when you're burdened, he can still bless you. The disciples were questioning not necessarily the mention of the crowd size and the scarcity of the resources or the remoteness of the location. Their intention was just to ask them, why would you do it? Why would you feed them? Just let them go home so they can find their own food. But the difference is, follow me closely, when they had the 5,000, they were only with Jesus one day. Yeah. But the feeding of the 4,000, they were with him for 3 days. Yes, maybe at the beginning, in the onset of their journey with Jesus, they had a little bit to eat, but after 3 days with people and children and hunger, their food ran out. Oh, yeah. What do you do when you're with Jesus? And what you had and you depended on all just run out. Yeah. You can be with Jesus and still what you were counting on will run out. Yes. See, if you're not careful, you'll run out with your resources. Yeah. And you'll say things like, I've been winning, and look at what kind of life I have. And I've been reading my Bible, and look at that old sinner over there, and they're more blessed than I am. And you'll start looking at everybody else, thinking that from the outside they're blessed, and forgetting about the fact he's still with you. Yes, sir. And the scripture is right yesterday. It's still right today. If I'm for you, come on, help me say, I'm more than the whole world against you. So if he's with you, you got everything you need that you need.
Yes, Lord.
He says to them, here it is. He says to them, you got it all. Despite the place that you're in. Jesus, thirdly, he provides. Yeah. His provisions never run out. The Lord provided. But the disciples had to serve it. Yeah. The Lord gave it, but somebody had to do it. Yeah. We're comfortable with him giving it. We're just not comfortable in serving others with what he gave them.
Yeah.
All right, I'm standing on shaky ground. It's guaranteed to bring me down. But let me at least give you a little bit of this. Jesus says, I'm the shepherd.
Yes, sir.
I want you to be the waiters.
Yeah.
He says, I'm the provider. I want you to be the servers.
Oh, yeah.
He says, I'm the supplier.
Yes, sir.
I want you to be the distributors.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We don't have no problem with him supplying.
Yeah.
We don't have no problem with him being the shepherd.
Yeah.
We don't have a problem with him being a provider. But he says, I want to get it to you so you can distribute what I've given you. The blessings that I've given you are not for you, but it's for every person you're going to come into contact with.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Here's a lesson. If you want a blessing, you got to learn to be a blessing.
That's right.
That's right.
If you want God to cook you something good, you got to be willing to serve what he cooks to somebody else.
Yes, sir.
He did not tell the disciples, you sit down and you eat.
Right.
He says, what I'm giving you is not for you. It's for the people I'm telling you to serve.
Come on, Pastor.
And if you want a blessing, he says, I'll supply you if you're willing to distribute what I'm giving you.
Amen.
He left because he left them and tells them, now you go.
Yeah.
You have been fed, now you can go. You've been taught, now you can go.
Yeah.
You've been blessed, now you can go. And he knew, and they now know, that you can never come into contact with Jesus and leave the same way.
Amen.
That's right.
I got 2 or 3 witnesses that tell you when you leave him, the hunger that you had has been diminished. When you leave him, there's another level of importance on the ministry. When you leave him and come into contact with him, now whatever you do becomes a sacrifice. You become a living sacrifice.
Yes, sir.
I remember the words of Isaiah chapter 55 when he says, come everyone who thirsts, come to the waters that you may be able to drink and you can delight your soul in rich food. He says when you get there, you'll be able to have something and enjoy something that you would not have had if it wasn't for Jesus.
Hallelujah.
I told you if he did it before, he can do it again.
Yes, sir.
That song was right when he says the blood that Jesus shed for me way back on Calvary. The blood that gives me strength from day to day will never lose its power. I like the word when he says it reaches to the highest mountain.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It flows to the lowest valley. That blood that gives me strength from day to day will never lose his power. And so he shares with us in closing, whatever you do, he says, remember that if I did it before, I can do it again.
Yes, sir.
If you believe it, clap your hands.